Okay. So good morning, everyone. We're about to start, so just take your seats, please, and we'll be starting in a few seconds now. Okay, I think we're good to start. Mr. Minister, authorities, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, we're starting the opening ceremony now, and I would like to call onto the stage our first speaker, Dr. Farzad Naeim, President of the International Association of Earthquake Engineering, and hence one of the hosts of this event. Farzad, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Rui, and welcome to you all. International Association for Earthquake Engineering does many things, but the most important thing is organizing world conferences on earthquake engineering every 4 years. The first one occurred in 1952. And from that point on, every 4 years, we have had a world conference, and this is the 18th one. The last one was affected by COVID, so our Japanese colleagues did it in a hybrid set, and our Italian colleagues, as you see, have gone overboard and produced something spectacular for you this time around. Now, the value of earthquake engineering cannot be overestimated. As earthquake engineers, we are really citizens of the world. We are not divided by color, by borders, by politics, by race, by religion. Everywhere an earthquake happens, it's our country, and we are there to protect people and save lives. What better proof we have for this, that we have in this room 4,000 people from more than 100 countries of the world. And I welcome you all, and I hope you are going to have a very wonderful conference, get to know each other, learn from each other, and take earthquake engineering more steps forward. The list of people that I have to thank for is too long. If I go through the list, you are going to end up being here during lunch and maybe dinner. So I make it short. For International Association for Earthquake Engineering, I want to thank Professor Hiroi Miyake, our Secretary General, Professor Kiyoshi Kuzunoki, and Professor Masayoshi Nakashima. Without their help, I wouldn't be here. Actually, Professor Nakashima is the best coach I have ever had in my life. Prepared me for every twist and turn. From organizers, the organizing committees, ANIDIS, EU Center, Lewis, and organizing committee members and scientific committee members, in particular, Professor Rui Pinho, who was here, has done a tremendous job, Professor Michele Calvi, the Executive Vice President of IAEE, and Professor Franco Braga. I want to thank them. I want to thank all the sponsors. You are going to go and meet them. In particular, I want to thank Computers and Structures, Inc. Without their generous supports, we wouldn't have the Masters series, Meet the Masters, the monographs that are produced, and we are really thankful for their super generous contribution to all of these technical events, and in particular, Mr. Ashraf Habibullah, who is my dear friend. Also, I want to thank the IAEE Liaison Committee and in particular Professor Ellen Rajji, its chair, and the WCEE Screening Committee. With that, I welcome you all, and I wish you the best conference ever. Thank you.
Thank you, Farzad. I would now like to call onto the stage Professor Franco Braga. He's the president of the Italian Association of Earthquake Engineering, so the second co-host of this event. Franco.
Mr. Minister, authorities, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it's my great honor to host you all there in Milan as President of the Italian Association of Seismic Engineering. Italy has not hosted this prestigious World Conference since its 5th edition, held in Rome in 1973, so a lot of years. As President of the Italian Association, I could not decline the role of chairman in the scientific committee of the conference. Therefore, I'm not now talking to you all wearing his hat too. I've been wondering about the most relevant information to pass down in the few minutes available, concluding that a feeling about the prevalent research fields selected by the participants would have been an interesting starting point. The total number of papers to be presented is 3,835, distributed among 150 sessions. However, the distribution between sessions is quite uneven. The average number of papers per session is around 26, but 2 sessions are emerging as those by far preferred by researchers, with 88 and 87 presentations, thus indicating the present main trends of research in earthquake engineering in the world. The subjects of these 2 sessions are seismic retrofit of existing buildings and application of artificial intelligence to analysis, design, and assessment of structures. Both of them show a number of papers more than triple with respect to the average number. While, on one side, the attention devoted to the application of artificial intelligence appears as an obvious consequence of a general trend in our modern world, emerging from discussions and debates applied to all sorts of topics, the attention to existing buildings is not necessarily expected. In my opinion, this trend indicates a renewed maturity of earthquake engineering, which is not anymore focused on the simpler context of new constructions, but rather feels to be ready to face and solve more complex problems related to the existing constructed heritage. Back to statistics, we note a group of 3 sessions with large numbers of presentations. Within 74 and 77, about the 10% less than the previous couple, related to health monitoring of structures, seismic isolation and energy dissipation for response control, and to seismic performance of non-structural elements. We are again in the range of 3 times the average number of presentations per session, again on 3 subjects showing the maturity of earthquake engineering, oriented to complex and intriguing aspects that may present important evolution in near future, and are again led to the reduction of vulnerability of the constructed environment. 5 sessions, and thus collecting more than 10% of the total number of presentations, focusing on matters of great interest, certainly central for a future development of a safer society. I'm sure it will be an appetizing World Conference. Therefore, enjoy its countless flavorful and entertaining events. Thank you.
Thank you, Franco. I'd now like to call to the stage Martina Riva. She's a councillor of the Municipal Board of the city of Milan, the city that is hosting this event. Martina, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So good morning, everyone. Welcome to Milan, and thank you for being here. I also bring you greetings from the mayor that unfortunately for personal reasons cannot be here. It's a great honor for us to host such an important convention in Milan, which brings together professionals from more than 100 countries and more than 100 exhibiting companies. The subject you study is obviously fundamental for our countries. A lot of regions have been hit from huge earthquakes in the last years, always forcing people to change completely their lives. I strongly believe in symbols, and I think that having you here can also be relevant in order for people to be more and more aware of the importance of science, of research, of cooperation between countries in order to improve our quality of life. I hope you will enjoy our beautiful city, our wonderful cities. I heard a lot of Japanese names in the former speech. I also want you to say that next week, we will host the World Championship of Kendo. So I hope that some of you could spend some more days in Milan in order to enjoy also this beautiful event. I see some of you saying yes with your head, so I'm very happy that you will be here in this important week for our city. So please enjoy Milan. Let us know what works and what doesn't work in our city. Good luck for your job here, and please come back in order to visit our city also in other occasions. Thank you so much for being here, and have a good job here.
Thank you, Martina. I'll now like to call to the stage our fourth host of this event is Mr. Attilio Fontana, the president of the Lombardia region, so the region that is hosting this conference. So, Mr. Fontana, the floor is yours.
Mr. Minister, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, everyone. And thank you for welcome invitation to this important convention that allows us to discuss a fundamental and central issue for a country like ours. The location of our peninsula, where the collision between the Eurasian plate and the African plate take place, put us in a particularly vulnerable position, and this imposes a significant responsibility on us. We must constantly prepare to deal with such natural events, minimizing their impact on communities and safeguarding human lives. Scientific research and technological development play a central role in this challenge. Investing in advanced earthquake-resistant technologies is essential for building more resilient buildings and infrastructures. We need to study much more and to use advanced materials and implementation of modern construction. While it is a good thing that many current new buildings are designed and built with advanced anti-seismic technologies, we cannot overlook the fundamental work that needs to be done in a country like ours, which depends above all on consolidating and securing existing buildings, especially those of historical and cultural value. It is impossible not to dedicate a moment to civil defense. Women and men who work very hardly in the field in the most difficult, complex and dramatic situation, facing emergency situation with professionalism and dedication. The examples are countless. Civil protection is the heart of our emergency response capacity, embodying a complex and highly efficient system that is activated in the face of natural calamities, environment, disaster, and other crisis situations. It is to them that our heartfelt thanks and deepest admiration goes. It is thanks to them that we can look to the future with greater confidence and serenity, knowing that even in the darkest moment, we will never be alone. Thank you to you, and wishing your success in this important day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Fontana. I would now like to call to the stage Mr. Giudo Castelli. He's a senator and a government commissioner for the post-2016 earthquake reconstruction. Mr. Castelli. You will hear the speech in oversound, because the speech of Mr. Castelli will be in Italian and will have oversound in English.
Signor Ministro Musumeci,
Dear Minister Musumeci, Governor Fontana, Councilor Riva, all authorities and all attendees, I am here to tell you how a big event, a big drama that struck central Italy 8 years ago can now be considered as a subject of study for the 18th World Conference on Earthquake Engineering. Between the 24th of August 2016 and the 18th of January 2017, central Italy was struck by one of the most destructive and devastating seismic frequencies in our nation. thousands of shakes, 4 of them made in just 5 days the area of interest of this devastation equal to 8,000 square kilometers, 600,000 people hit, 65,000 people displaced in the heart of Italy, where more than 300,000 buildings were damaged by this earthquake. From the very beginning, it appeared complex, difficult, because of the size of the problem. A large area, differentiated morphology, different types of buildings, and the widespread presence of cultural heritage. The reconstruction in 2016 had the issue to manage a wide range of surface, which before 2016 was already weak in sociological viewpoints because of depopulation, and it was hit by economic crisis that made that reconstruction an attempt to apply the most modern technologies and techniques for the reconstruction by following the principle of build back better, which could only be the orientation of our reconstruction. Very many false starts. It was difficult to organize public response at best. Our experience was subject to an analysis from the Italian government, and thanks to the intuition of Minister Musumeci, provided Italian law with a regulatory system which is stable now. When faced with huge catastrophes and natural hazards, we will already have a mechanism to act in emergency and reconstruction which is preset, predefined, so that we can avoid suffering again what we did suffer in 2016 when we had to organize our regulatory response faced with such a complex event. The worst time is over now. Last year, in 2023, we managed to give a U-turn to reconstruction activities with more than 1.3 billion funds given to the companies that work on a daily basis on reconstructing private buildings and fueling an effective mechanism for public reconstruction. When I took the position of government commissioner 1.5 years ago, the situation was still very difficult. Now, we have more than 3,000 public projects that we are following, that we are implementing, with more than 4 billion euros funds. And finally, we can provide this reconstruction with the opportunity to also enhance the best of our professional expertise, university and academic expertise in terms of reconstruction. There are 3 cases that I would like to bring to your attention that will also be assessed and investigated in the 18th World Conference. The project in Arquata del Tronto, which we developed with the Youth Center Foundation with Gian Michele Calvi. In Arquata del Tronto, we are reconstructing the foundation of this town where more than 50 people died, and the very old basement collapsed. The idea of Professor Calvi is to create a mechanism which is in line with the morphology of the town and provides maximum seismic technology with a system of trusses that will provide the future to the inhabitants of Arquata. They will return to the place in maximum seismic security and safety. In Castelluccio, our universities and the Perugia University are working to meet the requirement of respecting one of the most iconic places in our nation. The Castelluccio Plain is a biodiversity heritage at 1450 meters of height. We are implementing a mechanisms of various seismic lines respecting the orography of this hill, with a difference in height of around 30 meters, and we have staggered isolators and dampers so that we can provide full respect and full compliance with sustainability principles. All the materials that we will use to reconstruct Castelluccio will be recovered through a central system that is present near this great building site. Last but not least, showing how an earthquake in Italy has an impact on our cultural heritage, a project on the City Hall of Norcia, the home of San Benedict, which we have provided with seismic dampers in full compliance with the prestige of a building that was conceived and was built in the 12th century. These are just a few examples that show how, with reconstruction, you can innovate and update the map of safety of an heritage in Italy, which is present in a very fragile area. There have been big natural events in Piedmont and Val d'Aosta because of the hydrogeological fragility of Italy. So sustainability, fragility, safety, and expertise and skills. These are the ingredients of a reconstruction which we submit to your attention so that we can share what can best be done in the world and in Italy after the seismic crisis. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Castelli. I'll now like to call to the stage Fabrizio Curcio. He's the head of the Italian Civil Protection Department. Fabrizio, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. First of all, let me thank the International Association for Earthquake Engineering, the Italian National Association for Earthquake Engineering, for hosting us today. Thank you so much. And obviously also with the collaboration of the Center Foundation and the Relewis Consortium. Let me thank all the authorities who are present here today in this very important event. Thanks to our Minister, Nello Musumeci. Thank you, Minister, to be here. Thanks to the President of Lombardia region, Attilio Fontana, and the delegate of the Mayor Milan, Assessore Martina Riva, and all the international stakeholders that will take part in the discussion and the debate over the next few days. As many of you know, the Italian Civil Protection Department is a technical structure of the Presidency of the Council of Ministers, and its main task is to coordinate the National Civil Protection Service, made up of the central administrations, regions, and municipalities. Furthermore, the National Civil Protection Service operates through the operational structures like Firefighters Corps, armed forces, police forces, voluntary organizations, companies of essential public services, and obviously the scientific community. This integrated approach requires the development of dedicated knowledge and expertise to meet both national and international objectives and to facilitate urgent investments to make our country more resilient. In this sense, the relationship between decision-making processes and science is crucial in all hazard logic for defining strategies, priorities, and actions in policies and investments, especially in terms of prevention and taking into account interaction between various risks. So the national civil protection is called upon every day to make crucial decisions to safeguard the lives of citizens, properties, economy assets, and for the safety of our country in general. Decisions that affected the entire cycle of risk management, from forecasting and prevention to the emergency management. Decisions that have made immediate effects during the emergency management, but also in ordinary times to prevent it even from occurring or producing a major impact. Each time we operate in a context full of uncertainties or imperfect knowledge, which requires the assumption of a simplification that can facilitate and speed up the necessary choice. These are decisions based on the best science and knowledge available to us and the optimal combination of operational capacities, scientific data, and knowledge. For this reason, the relationship between the civil protection and the scientific community is of vital importance for the achievement of risk forecasting and prevention activities. The Italian civil protection system has over 30 years of experience in collaboration between science and policy, building effective collaboration between civil protection decision makers and scientists. And this has long been addressed priority. It has been integrated into the current legal framework. In fact, several articles of the Civil Protection Code, our law, are dedicated to the scientific community. In practice, science contributes to our civil protection system in two ways. On one hand, the competent centers, which are research institutes and the universities, producing and providing knowledge and scientific tools for civil protection activities, and on the other hand, the Major Risk Commission, that is a technical scientific advisory body of the Civil Protection Department. In particular, focusing on seismic risk, the first thing to underline is that our actual system has been strongly conditioned by several earthquakes occurred since the last century. Just to mention the most important for the evolution of our organization, let me remind the 1980 earthquakes occurred in Irpinia, 3,000 people dead and 300,000 displaced. The event in 1997 that struck Marche ed Umbria with very important involvement of cultural heritage. The one occurred in 2009 in L'Aquila, and last, the earthquake that in 2016-17 hit the central part of Italy, Amatrice, Norcia, and the territory of four regions. Coming back to the scientific approach, let me mention how 2003 San Giuliano earthquake, which led the collapse of a school with 28 victims, 27 children, and a teacher, has been a turning point for our system. This event is in fact highlighted the important limitation that the seismic regulation had in Italy at that time. Over the time, the collaboration with the seismic scientific community has led to remarkable results which have allowed prevention activities based on the latest and most accredited scientific data and product. And this anticipated perhaps by a few decades what is now an European international trend. In 2003, following that dramatic San Giuliano event, the foundation were in fact being laid for seismic prevention in a structured form, thanks to the following Prime Minister's order, a measure that was used at the proposal of the Civil Protection Department that triggered a radical change in seismic risk mitigation tools in Italy. The rule, the ordinance, in fact, marked an important paradigm shift for the country's seismic prevention. All of Italy's territory was classified into 4 zones of different hazard level, effectively effacing the unclassified territory. The foundation was also laid for an updated national reference hazard study that provided the regions with an updated tool for classifying their territory, and at the same time constituted a new reference for the new technical standards for construction of 2008, according to a new approach compared to the past. The rule therefore created the condition to ratify technical and scientific research within the seismic field, supporting the prevention strategies put in place by the Department of Civil Protection in 2003. From 2003 to today, various financing lines has been established to finance seismic vulnerability checks and intervention on public buildings, and for a certain period also private one. A national fund of about 273 million euros was allocated that same years for extraordinary intervention on strategic and relevant buildings. In 2009, after the earthquake, Aquila earthquake, a new national fund of almost 1 billion euros was used, divided into 7 years to launch a national territory seismic prevention plan. And following the refinancing in 2018, the total amount is almost 1.7 billion of euros. In 2023, in order to address the issue of prevention in an organic manner at international level, an additional fund was established to finance a program of structural mitigation of seismic vulnerability of public buildings with an endowment of almost 300 million euros until 2008. This program that was promoted by Minister Musumeci will be coordinated through a special steering commission, a committee set up by the Department of Civil Protection and the Department of Casa Italia of the Presidency of the Council of the Ministers, and provides the harmonization and optimization of resources put in place in order to achieve an organic approach on the national territory. It's also appropriate to mention today the important support that the scientific communities has provided and is still providing for the seismic risk prevention activities related to the ground movement of a bradysismic phenomenon in Campi Flegrei area. The support from the scientific community has made it possible to support the civil protection in making strategic decisions, such as defining the area of intervention affected by the phenomena or identifying operational tools. In conclusion, let me mention another essential point, what we call in civil protection, we call the last mile. That is the involvement of the communities, the involvement of the citizens. What we call a non-structural prevention represents the essential element to the base seismic risk management policies. Civil protection planning, citizen awareness, information to population, operators training are essential elements which, alongside infrastructure works, will truly allow the community to increase its level of safety. So the experience gained in recent years on structural and not structural prevention front teach us that the goal of risk reduction can be only achieved through the necessary link and collaboration with the scientific community, research entities, institutions, and professional world in an holistic vision. In this sense, initiatives like this one of today, the World Conference on Earthquake Engineering, turn out to be essential in supporting scientific research on the topic and to improve prevention tools for civil protection purposes. Thank you, and I wish you a perfect world in these days. Thank you.
Thank you, Fabrizio. I'll now like to call to the stage Ms. Ekhosuehi Iyahen. She's the Secretary General of the Insurance Development Forum and will certainly bring a different perspective to this opening ceremony. The floor is yours.
Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, esteemed colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it's certainly an honor to address you during this 18th World Conference on Earthquake Engineering opening ceremony, and really just to spend a bit of time with such a gathering of distinguished professionals who are committed to understanding the management of one of nature's most formidable forces. We are in an era where disasters are becoming increasingly frequent and severe. The importance of resilience cannot be overstated. Earthquakes, with their sudden and devastating impact, remind us of our vulnerability. Yet, they also compel us to innovate, to collaborate, as we've heard earlier, and strengthen our preparedness and response mechanisms. This year, and I have to really thank Professor Pinho, I've been invited to speak briefly on the theme Mobilizing Insurance Sector Capabilities for Resilience, a theme which I believe is truly timely. I also see that we are in the Allianz MiCo building, and right across the road we have the Generali and the Allianz Tower, so it's good to see there is some level of insurance present here in one way or the other. The insurance sector holds a unique position within the broader financial ecosystem. Beyond the traditional role of financial indemnity, the sector also has the potential to drive resilience and recovery in really unprecedented ways, and we intend to do so. By mobilizing its resources, expertise, and reach, the insurance industry can play a key role in transforming the landscape of how we understand earthquakes and drive resilience. And this is really a central issue for the work that we do at the Insurance Development Forum, which is the institution that I represent. And for some context, the Insurance Development Forum is a partnership that is led by the insurance industry, but also supported by international organizations and specifically co-chaired by the World Bank Group and the United Nations. And our ambition and our mission is to use insurance and its related risk management capabilities to drive resilience and protection for people, communities, businesses that are vulnerable to disasters and their associated economic shocks. And so that obviously converges nicely, I think, with the ambition and the purpose and the objective of this convening, considering the huge exposures when we think about earthquake risks. A simple fact is that by protecting lives and livelihoods and assets, insurers contribute about $5 to $5.5 trillion per annum to global financial resilience in the form of insurance payouts, insurance claims and benefit payouts. These claims and benefit payouts represent the largest financial contribution to individual, business, and community resilience globally, and it's more than any other source outside of governments directly. This is, of course, in addition to the $40 trillion of assets managed by the global insurance industry, and which constitutes 1/3 of global assets under management. Yet behind these figures, there are some facts that I think are relevant for this audience and which defines why I'm present here today and which should be of concern to all of us. The first is that the reality is that there are huge protection gaps all over the world. In most developing countries, we are talking about 2 to 3% in terms of insurance penetration rates. Unfortunately, what that means is that when disasters occur in these contexts, the burden of recovery sits squarely on the shoulders of governments, or it sits squarely on the shoulders of communities and households, who, in their most desperate moments when they have been affected by these events, are forced to deal with these shocks and find ways to adapt and cope with the impact of these events. This situation is obviously of concern because there has been considerable research that shows that a 1% increase in insurance penetration can reduce the disaster recovery burden in taxpayers by up to 22%. The implications of when these events occur is not only about short-term losses in terms of infrastructure, but these impacts can also carry through generations. The second challenge that we see on the horizon is that today's economies and societies are facing unprecedented transformation and uncertainty that are driven by geopolitical tensions, dramatic demographic changes, technological developments, legacy impact of COVID-19, a spiraling climate crisis. The fact is also that we live in an increasingly interconnected world that represents a rapidly evolving risk landscape. And this gives rise to the complexity and the evolution of risk, but also the importance of collaboration. To make this more material, I want to make the connection to the focus on earthquakes and spend a few minutes just reflecting on what we are seeing in terms of public-private partnerships that are emerging within the insurance industry in collaboration with governments that offer an opportunity to blend disaster risk reduction, strengthening social protection, and risk management, and also why this matters at this point in time. And I'll focus specifically on two events that I think many of you are probably quite familiar with. The first being the Turkey-Syria earthquake, which struck in February 2023, and of course, the Morocco earthquake, which struck in September 2023. Most in this community, as I said, would be aware of the 7.8 magnitude earthquake that hit southern Turkey and northern Syria on 6th February, killing more than 50,000 people and erasing entire cities. Over the course of 65 seconds, the ground swallowed swaths of entire cities across southeast Turkey. During the event, more than 850,000 buildings crumbled. And in the aftershocks, we saw bridges collapse, roads and airport tarmacs cracked, and millions of lives across the region and provinces affected were upturned. A year later, 12 months later, hundreds of thousands of people remain displaced, many living in container cities, while the rest of the quake-prone country waits in fear for the next big shake. In the Syrian border town of Hatay, only 250,000 of the original 1.7 million inhabitants remain in the area. Estimates from the National Economic Policy Institute are that the earthquake will create a financing need of approximately US $150 billion over the next 5 years. The affected region in Turkey was, of course, under intense economic strain, being home to more than half of 3.7 million refugees who had fled from neighboring Syria. On the insurance front, the threat of major earthquakes have long been a concern for the government in Turkey, as almost 70% of Turkey's population and 75% of its industrial facilities are vulnerable to large-scale earthquakes. In 2000, the government partnered with the industry to create the Turkish Catastrophe Insurance Pool, as before its establishment, earthquake insurance in Turkey was mostly provided as an allied peril to the fire and engineering policies. Penetration rates were low, only 5% of coverage of residential buildings. But by spreading insurance and risk awareness to the public, it jumped to 60% earthquake insurance penetration countrywide, one of the highest in the world. Over the years, the insurance pool has grown, covering people that would not normally have the support, and in 2023 made a payout of about 340 million in claims to more than 500,000 households and victims related to this particular earthquake. In Morocco, we saw an estimated loss of 8% of GDP as a result of that event. 530 schools damaged, 100,000 children left without school, 3,000 people killed, and 600,000 people affected, with 380,000 of those temporarily or permanently homeless. Like Turkey, Morocco's government had recognized the dangers of disaster risk and had implemented a system of public-private partnerships to pre-finance for earthquakes. Prior to 2004, public policies relating to recovery and reconstruction were mainly based on ad hoc approaches that were put in place after the disasters, and no dedicated pre-funding mechanism in place. The government, however, developed a two-pillar system, a natural catastrophe insurance pool to support people holding private insurance contracts with full protection against catastrophe risks. Meanwhile, a solidarity fund was created to provide cover for uninsured and most vulnerable members of society. In 2003, the Solidarity Fund made a payment of 275 million within a couple of weeks. These are just examples of how public-private partnerships are emerging to address some critical needs for governments and communities. But at the same time, I want you to reflect on my opening statement, which is the fact that we have huge exposures, and when these events occur, we are talking about hundreds and billions of dollars. Over the last 4 years, the insurance industry has made a payout of $100 billion in response to claims from earthquakes, floods, etc. And there is a concern that we are seeing that beyond deepening financial protection, we have to invest in risk reduction and resilience building. And so from the insurance development perspective, I see 5 areas where we intend to expand our efforts and where we see very practical, direct opportunities for collaboration with the engineering community. The first is on risk assessment and data utilization. One of the core capabilities that lie within the industry is risk assessment. There's vast amounts of data on historical losses, damage patterns, and recovery timelines. But we need to harness this data better so that we can understand these risks better. The insights that we get from the engineering community are invaluable. They inform urban planners and policymakers in terms of how we can design better infrastructure and communities so that they can better withstand these seismic events. In this context, I also want to acknowledge the collaboration that we have with the Global Earthquake Model and also John Schneider and team, who have worked with us through the implementation of our activities to engage with countries around the importance of this agenda and the real exposures and drivers of risk that earthquakes pose. The second also is the collaboration between the industry and the engineering community should be harnessed in a stronger way to incentivize resilient practices. Insurance can incentivize resilient construction and retrofitting. by offering premium reductions for buildings that meet stringent earthquake requirement standards and for communities that invest in mitigation measures. We should find better ways to collaborate with policymakers so that we can reinforce this nexus between finance and the work that engineers do to inform better actions on the ground. The third is on facilitating rapid recovery. In the aftermath of an earthquake, speed and efficiency are paramount. We can streamline claim processes, ensuring that funds are disbursed quickly to affected individuals and businesses. But what does recovery actually look like? This is where we need, again, the capabilities from this community to inform how we construct housing for those people that have been affected by these events. The fourth area is on education and awareness. Education and awareness are critical components of resilience. The insurance sector, with an extensive customer base, can be a powerful advocate for earthquake preparedness. Through targeted community campaigns, we can work together to engage communities on better resilience practices. The fifth, which is my final, is on innovative solutions and partnership. Innovation is the lifeblood of resilience. The sector is uniquely positioned to invest in and support the development of new technologies and solutions, and we cannot do it alone. From early warning to advanced materials and construction techniques, we can drive research and development efforts. And I really applaud the statements that were made earlier in terms of the various research activities that will be given some platform for visibility at this conference over the coming week. So in closing, my call to action is that we find ways to deepen our collaboration. Insurance sits within the intersection of risk, resilience, and finance. It is clear that the sector will have to play a bigger role in our collective efforts to mitigate the impact of earthquakes. My call to action to all stakeholders, insurers, engineers, policymakers, researchers, and community leaders is to embrace a collaborative approach. By leveraging our joint strengths and capabilities, we can build a more resilient future for all. Let us remember that resilience is not a destination, but a continuous journey. It requires commitment, innovation, and the unwavering belief that together we can reduce the economic and human toll of earthquakes. And so I want to wish you all a successful convening, and thank you, and look forward to the deliberations over the rest of the week.
Thank you, Ekhosuehi. Now, two brief announcements before I pass on to the next speaker. Senator Alessandra Galloni, she could not make it to this event today due to a last-minute impediment, but she asked to pass her greetings, wishes for a fruitful conference that the Minister of Research, of University and Research, fully endorses and support. The other brief announcement, we're running a little bit late with the time, and so what we're going to be doing is that we'll shift everything of the necessary 10, 15 minutes, so you do not need to leave at 10:30 for the technical sessions. We'll shift everything with the necessary time. So I will now call the next speaker, His Excellency, the Italian Minister for Civil Protection and Sea Policies, Mr. Nello Musumeci. Speech will be using oversound.
Signor Presidente della Regione
Mr. President of the region of Lombardy, authorities, earthquake engineers, ladies and gentlemen, I apologize, but rather than speaking bad English, I like to speak Italian. I would like to bring to you the personal welcome of the government of Italy to you all. Welcome to Italy, and it's a great honor for us to host such an important world conference, which comes to Italy after 50 years. And it's a great honor for us to have you here in the beautiful city of Milan. And there's no need to tell you that we look very carefully at what you are doing, at the quality of the exchange of views, at the outcome of these 5 days of meetings. The Italian government works with a lot of care for the policy of prevention, of seismic prevention, structural and non-structural prevention. Everything becomes more difficult in a country where inhabitants are not really ready and prone to act in terms of prevention. I believe that any commitment by the engineers, the professional registers, categories, and the scientific community risks providing results which are not totally practical when this commitment clashes with the lack of readiness of the recipients, I mean the inhabitants of communities at risk. In a country where more than half of the national territory has been ranked as high and medium seismic risk, in a nation with dozens of active volcanoes, in a nation where over the past century we registered more than 120,000 casualties for natural disasters, not having prevention as your priority objective becomes a problem. But the Italian government, this government, is faced with this reality, and we work on that on a daily basis with our department, with consulting competence centers, with our National Institute for Geophysics and Volcanology, with the academic world, and with an organization of earthquake engineers, which is an honor for Italy, and which is considered with a lot of attention also above and beyond national borders. We are working at a mitigation plan, a seismic risk mitigation plan, and we are doing this with the two departments, as Mr. Curcio said, Civil Protection and Casa Italia. And we really believe that we should start an even stronger debate around some issues, and here I would like to mention two of them, which have already been mentioned by the previous speakers. Reconstructing as it was and where it was. Is this always possible? Is this ethically right? On this issue, our hearts clashes with our minds. Every inhabitant, every citizen would like to go back to their homes, their districts, their towns that were destroyed by an earthquake. Displacement causes trouble, breaks your identity, and breaks the identity of a community. And it is around this topic that the government is making an appeal to the scientific community to find a solution which is the least traumatic possible. The second topic on which we constantly discuss is the following: reconstruction. We no longer have government funds forever and for everyone. Italy is one of the very few countries in the world which acts after natural hazards, and everything is paid by public money. Exactly because the lack of a culture of risk has caused the abandonment of insurance companies. We have the duty, though it's really difficult to do so, to convince Italians, but I believe that this is a problem which is felt also in other places, that when you have a home or a house in a risky area, you have the duty to protect it by means of an insurance policy. It's a very long cultural process, I'm aware of it, but we must face it. In this situation, which is certainly complex, people mentioned before, we are facing an event which I'm sure has already been analyzed and assessed by the scientists and by the academic community, which is Campi Flegrei, the Phlegrean fields in Campania, near Naples. One of the most unique volcanoes in the world. It's flat. It's a volcano where for various months there has been a significant, a major seismic sequence accompanying bradysism, that is, the uplifting of the earth, and which can only be a reason for concern, also in government bodies, taking into account that in that area, in the past 60 years, more than 100,000 people have settled. Those are the main topics around which we are working in Italy, and it's for this reason, also for this reason, that we look at your World Conference with particular care and particular attention. The outcome of what you're doing, the success of your intuitions, the results of your studies and of your research projects are fundamental for the work that government will be called to carry out in the next few years. For this reason, we are all very grateful to you. And on behalf of the Italian government, while welcoming you again to our country, which is beautiful, which is fantastic, but also complex, we really hope that you will have 5 very successful days. Thank you very much.
Mr. Minister Musumeci, thank you very much. I'll now like call onto the stage our last speaker that will introduce the final moment of this opening ceremony. And once again, I can tell you, you don't need to leave the room. We'll shift the program by the necessary time. You will enjoy the end of this opening ceremony. I'm pretty sure of that. So without further ado, I call Professor Michele Calvi, Executive Vice President of the International Association of Earthquake Engineering.
Mr. Minister, authorities, colleagues, friends, students, the International Association of Earthquake Engineering is close to celebrate its 70th birthday. It has achieved a lot of results. It has a president, it has a board of directors, it has a journal, it has an icon, this splendid carved sculpture that represents the Maori god of earthquakes and volcanoes. Nonetheless, I had the impression that something was missing. What was missing is an anthem. Now we may have one. You will take the decision on whether it can fit the needs of the association or not. It is a story narrated by crowds with coarse hands and obscure names, like those gentes de rudas manos y oscuros nombres narrated by Jorge Luis Borges. Women and men that you have never met, but that you know well. There were people living in San Francisco, in Messina, in Kobe, in different places at different times and different centuries. They are all here with us now. They are all here with us fighting against time, because we all know that earthquakes will occur, whether they are catastrophes or not. Depends on our action.
So finally, we're about to close, and just some final words have already been anticipated by Farzad Naeim in noting how important it is the support of our sponsors. The support of our sponsors was fundamental in making this event happen, but it's also fundamental in making sure that we have the necessary interaction between the world of research, of science, and of the industry. So thank you very much to our sponsors. I now invite those of you who are involved in the technical sessions to join your technical sessions. The rooms are all in the corridors in this floor. Those that are not involved in the technical sessions are invited to visit the exhibition area. Let me just check the delay we have. So I would say that we're going to delay the program by half hour, which we will recover during lunchtime. And so which means that the keynote lecture that will be taking place in this room, rather than starting at 12 o'clock, it will start at 12:30, so that you have the time to now carry out the technical sessions and then join us back here at 12:30 for the keynote lecture. And just one final communication. Some of you noted to us that you were expecting to have printed copies of the program. we really want to be as environmentally friendly as possible, so we did not produce printed hard copies of the program, but if conveners require a printed copy of the program of their session, they can ask our offices to produce so. We'll be happy to do so, but we do want to make sure that we care for the environment. Without anything else to say, I thank once again our minister, all the authorities, our colleagues, and have a good conference. Thank you.